recorded and stuff like that. So this game will be gold for Zyra. Do it with the ADC. It's for Chu. Alright, so he's going to be playing Zyra in this game. This is through Plays TV for the most part. Oh, I still really don't like that walk animation. Oh, so you guys are doing a late invade? Oh no, you're just like normal invading. Okay. So let's well actually let me see if he went snare to try and kill someone level 1. Right? I think he went snare to try and kill someone level 1. I think that's what happens. Okay. I mean, really the only thing about this is just always try to, like, he's gonna stun, just throw your root, like, at him. I think you thought the stun would end or something, so because of that, you tried to throw the root where he'd walk. Also, another thing, probably don't want to use your ignite on someone if you miss your CC. A lot of times, if you pre-build, like, like conditions of when you use certain summoners, it's a lot easier, so recommend making sure your CC hits before you use ignite. That way it's just like a confirmed scenario. Alright, so you're gonna have root level 1. This is not ideal because I actually really don't like starting root level 1 in pretty much all circumstances. So you're gonna be walking into the brush, and the first thing you should be doing is just taking the bush right here. So let's talk about pushing on waves. Okay, I don't believe there's any. Let me see if there's any command that lets me go back. So, in scenarios like this, you've already arrived to the wave and no one's here. You don't need to dump your snare into the wave. And the reason for that is you don't actually want the wave to crash on the first wave. Basically, what you might end up doing by doing this is you push it so hard that it crashes under the turret, and then you don't have like early access to the second wave, which means you don't hit 2 first. Also, on top of that, this is actually like a good space for you to zone. So what you should have done is when you entered in lane, especially since you had snare, don't touch any of these minions, walk into the brush, and just stand here at the start, and let your AD carry clear the wave. And then you should just be fishing for snares the entire time, which you do a good job of. You get the auto attack in, perfect, good job. Now, one thing to note in like trades like this is assessing skills and where players are. So like when you do this trade right here, so number 1 is what skills are up. Sivir used Boomerang here, so she doesn't have any skills to trade back. Number 2, where are other players? Currently, it doesn't seem like the Ezreal is here. So you can actually push trades really, really hard until you see people there. So when you walk up and you hit the snare, you should literally just be auto-attacking this person all the way back to the turret until you see the Ezreal. Especially because you can see the jungler here, so you don't have to worry about getting ganked in the early stages. It's just called pushing your advantage in any situation. Like, anytime someone uses their first skill, like their only skill on the wave, then that leaves you an opportunity to trade really, really hard. Because they don't have, like, any trading skills back. Plus, since you hit the snare, your AD carry, as you're auto-attacking, has the threat of also hitting them. So in situations like that, right, you're hitting him, you're auto-attacking him. If he turns around and stops running away to auto-attack back on you, your AD carry is clearing distance, which allows him to hit him too. That'll always be a losing trade, especially because I don't know where the other guy is, but he's obviously not in lane. Also, another thing too is I probably would have invested in getting Q level 2, not W, and the reason for that is just the long range poke and your ability to cycle your mana flow bands is much better than having the extra plant for your snare. Snare plant is actually like not too useful in a lot of cases in the early stages. Also, another thing to note, whenever you're playing against champions that can throw skill shots into brushes, always recommend standing either not quite at the edge, just like where you're standing right here is good. This is a good spot, and then adjust based on how he walks. And then also, just putting yourself into the wall, because a lot of people just shoot the skill shot like straight, and it usually hits in the center. So if you're on the side, like in the wall right here, then you have a higher likelihood of not getting hit by skill shots. I'm pretty sure he walked over and warded, so you're always going to get hit by those skill shots. So next is like trading and where you should be positioning and how you deal with harass. So he's warded the brush, right? You get hit by the skill shot, you've missed your snare. You don't need to be forcing these auto attacks in since you've missed your skill shots. Just take the losing trade and step back. Also, another thing to note, always recommend using your potions to keep yourself topped off. So in this situation, right, like right here, you're missing 200 HP. You should already have a potion running right now. That way you can actively be looking to trade without worrying about your HP situation. So you hit the snare right here, but there's no reason for you to continue pushing and auto-attacking. Your plan is already dead, so he's not being slowed the entire time, and your AD carry isn't hitting them. I always talk about like trading triangles, where you always want to create a scenario where you and your ADC are hitting one person together. So in situations like this, right, like your AD carry dashes in, you've lost too much life, your AD carry dashes in, he trades a little bit, and then he's stepping back. Once you hit this snare, you should just step back too. There's no way for your AD carry to reinforce, he doesn't have dash, and now you've created a triangle for yourself where they can just focus you the entire time. Also, another thing to notice is you need to be using your health potions way earlier, especially when you're actively trading like this. Because now, because your HP is incredibly low, you have to basically play back for a long period of time. And that means that you just can't do anything in this lane. This is also why I'm not a big fan of starting snare level 1, because you can't harass nearly as much. Alright, so we've hit level 3. We finally have Q and W together. And this is where you should just be actively looking for Qs and Ws. Okay. Actually surprised that ended up working, but good snare by you. I would have started that trade with actually the Q, because you had 2 ranged plants, and that would just guarantee damage, but I guess you hit the snare, so then the player ended up dying. Another good snare. You're auto-attacking. Good. So now you should just be helping push this wave in. You shouldn't be channeling back right here. What you should be doing is you should walk up, hit the ranged minions, put your Q on it. Perfect. And then just start pushing that out all the way to the turret. Help your AD carry get that in so that you can reset at the same time. Alright, so on this back, we're getting our boots, and this should just be refillable and a pink ward. Perfect. The god buy. Am I going to hit the gym today? I don't go to the gym. Alright, so we're just walking back into lane. This is good that you're taking the brush at the start, not walking just straight into the lane. If you intend on looking for a snare, then you need to use it and then run away. Otherwise, you just let the wave push. So, one thing that I've commonly seen with like a lot of your trade patterns is almost all of your trade patterns start with a snare, not with a Q. Which is great if you hit the snare, but it's really an easy way to bleed pressure in this lane. And I think you're laning against like a really dumb lane matchup. So I would recommend in the future to just have like better habits of using your Q first as your primary start for a trade. Just because if you miss your snare and you've used all your plants that way, you've guaranteed no damage in the lane. And because of that, you're also harassed. So this is good. You've used your pink. Now you have the wave pushing. And you're able to take a really good trade right there and clear the ward. So now you should walk back into the brush and just take this location right here next to the ward, or next to the brush, That way you can push them away from the wave. Like, you should be standing right here and shooting skill shots over and over again, and then anytime the Ezreal walks forward, you just give ground. You kind of just play this seesaw situation in that regard. So we hit another snare. Good. Oh wow, you actually almost ended up killing him. Now you have pretty much full control of the lane wherever you want. So in scenarios where the brush is warded, don't walk into the brush. So once you force the ward out, you shouldn't be standing here anymore. What you should be doing is standing in the minions. And the reason for that is Mystic shots can't hit you as long as you're standing in the minions, but your snare can still go through them. So the wave is pushing towards you, or pushing towards them right now. You should be playing way further up and way into the minions. For the most part, what I've noticed is outside of playing in the brushes, you don't switch your scenarios to standing in the minions to harass people when you have a clear advantage and you versus someone who has range damage like this. Like, you're just getting harassed basically for free instead of sitting in the minions and making them fight you for it. This is also like one of the problems, right? Like, you're constantly using your snare as your leading trade, and because of that, Ezreal, like, if anyone's standing too far away, you basically just avoid taking they basically avoid taking damage. Whereas if you're just queuing and spawning plants, you still have the threat of the snare, but on top of that, you can also like be whittling down their HP pool. I'd just be leaving at this point in time too. Like, there's no reason for you to stay in the lane anymore. You're quite useless, and there's still a ward in this brush. Like, you're pretty much standing outside of vision, or outside of experience range from this point on. You could just walk over here too and spawn ranged plants and harass people. One thing that you need to work on for sure is utilizing, like, I like to call it like open space, where like the minions won't aggro, but the players will. That's why if you see me play Zyra, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll spawn plants like in the edge of the brush with my Q, just to either zone them away or have them only be in range of the player rather than the minions too. Because like basically in this scenario, like you've kind of been in lane for about, I don't know, like 2 or 3 extra minutes where you haven't basically hit them at all. And a lot of that ties into the fact that you don't spawn ranged plants enough to harass people. Like, same shit, you know what I mean? Like, he goes forward to shoot Qs at you instead of you just spawning a ranged plant and letting the ranged plant do damage. You feel obligated that your spell must hit them. And you're not using the plants as like an extension of yourself to harass. That's pretty systemic for right now. Also, make sure that you make a better habit of switching to your sweeper when you finish your sidestone quest. That way you can be sweeping all the wards in the brushes. Hey, what's up, guys? So, let's talk about warding. So, this is how you identify whether or not, like, where you're supposed to go. So your AD carry has no mana, he's walking back to the turret. You don't need to walk to this lane at all. You got your reset first, which means that your AD carry is going to reset after you, which means that you don't need to go bottom unless he's getting threatened to dive or anything like that. So instead, what you should have done is okay, I reset first. That means he's going to have to reset in, like 15, 20 seconds, maybe a minute. So instead of walking here, you need to walk mid. The reason why you need to walk mid is you just need to establish like a vision line. If you can't go aggressive and get wards down, on this ramp brush in the jungle, that's completely fine since your mid laner died, right? And your jungler died. But you should still be establishing just a line down the river. The reason for this is just to keep track of where the jungler may or may not be. It'll let you protect the Infernal Dragon in this case. Plus, it'll also let you know whether or not the Corki is roaming on you. These are all like important pieces of information to like make sure that you always have. Because now you basically walked a lane, right? You've walked all the way to lane. Now you're walking all the way over here. And it's just like a lot of wasted time in most cases. Like, we haven't established any vision line basically at all. And see, we have all 3 wards up, and we haven't gotten any wards down at all. And there's no need for you to even be in this lane right now. This wave wasn't going to hit the turret before before your AD carry got back. Like, see this wave state? This wave state is the same whether you're here or not, and your AD carry still catches this. But now the problem arises where, like, you didn't get any wards anywhere. So if you had walked mid instead, right? If you had walked mid, you would have seen the Ivern top, and you would have been able to walk in and get wards down all over here. And you'd be able to see the jungler for the next 2.5 minutes. That's an insane amount of information. It allows you to play way more aggressively. What secondary do you recommend? I've personally fallen in love with going boots and biscuits. I just think that it's just way better than going domination nowadays. But I think you can make at least arguments towards domination as a secondary. So we're standing in the brush. You're getting hit by minions. This is where sweeper would come in handy. If a minion was hitting you, then you could sweep that and make sure you clear out the ward. So now we're starting to like slowly do the right thing, which is, you know, queuing, spawning range plants, and just harassing people. The reason why this is so powerful on a champion like Zyra too is because if you run Comet and Scorch, your plants will just auto-proc all of the spells. So this ward is basically useless. You want to be warding like in the center of the river. That way it covers dragon and someone rotating on you. So now we're walking over. You see the Ezreal. He's just gonna Valk over. Alright, so let's talk about scenarios and map and stuff like that. So, number one. You pushed into the turret, right? So now you're looking to run up the river, maybe establish some vision. Oh, no. Actually, you clear another wave. In these circumstances, I always just play for plates. You make so much gold and income off of plates and hitting the turret that it's just way more worth than rotating mid. Okay, but you decide to rotate mid. And you're walking up. While you're rotating mid, you should have dropped a word here. And you should have dropped a word in that brush. Just so you can see if anyone's reinforcing this play. And then I'd ward over the wall too. Next is like the approach. So there's no reason for you to walk all the way out here and curve out. You should be right next to the wall and curving in. This gives your teammate your opponent the least amount of time to react to this scenario, by the way. Max order, I always max E, W, and then Q. No, futures market's terrible. Don't ever take that. You want to be approaching so that you give him the least amount of time. If you approach from here and then he still Valks, you're actually in range to snare him at the start of that. And then your AD carry could actually follow up. So then after this is just like, this just doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like you're not strong enough to deal with that guy, and you're actually too close to him in most cases. If you're in range for him to be auto-attacking, you're probably messing up in terms of Zyra at the start. And then, okay, we finally do switch to sweeper. Good. So now we're running down here to contest the dragon. Yeah, okay, looks good. AD carry's dead. Your Pantheon has done it. Now, a lot of times whenever you pull this dragon, always recommend walking into the pit and then warding over the dragon wall, just so you can see whenever people are going for the dragon. And I don't know why you warded the tri-bush, but this is just a useless ward in general. This doesn't give you any information at all. After you win a fight like that, what you should have done is after you get the dragon, just stepped up, ward on the wraiths, then you can slide down and ward the golems. If you're too concerned about getting collapsed on, you can pop the plant beforehand, just to like give yourself some vision and cone over here. For the most part, like you're just not establishing vision basically anywhere that's important, and that's like a pretty big problem. Like, a lot of your wards are useless in this game. So, like, we have a ward in the dragon pit. We have a ward in our own tri-bush. These wards don't really show you anything on the map. So, try to make sure that you get outer wards so that you can actively see where people can be and where people might be is very, very important. Like, vision can be very valuable to you just because of the fact that you know where they can't be. And that can be incredibly helpful in that regard. So, good flash. We get the snare off. Good. We still have another ward, though. Okay, so you just won a fight. You just want to fight. You've killed 3 people. Instead of channeling back right here, you should walk into the jungle. You should ward the red. Then you can use your pink in this brush. I always call it the banana brush. I hope you can see the outline. This brush right under here, you can pink ward there because most people don't walk through that brush, and you can actually get uptime on it really, really high. And then on top of that, what you'll do is you'll just stay for this turret, and you'll just hit it the entire time. This will gen you a lot of gold, especially when you play champions like Zyra, Vel'Koz, Brand, Lux, etc. You need to make sure that you're establishing a vision line and generating income. Will you stream? Will you play this stream or only coaching? I'm only streaming for like 2 or 3 hours because I have a dentist appointment, and then when I come back from the dentist appointment, I'll be playing. So we're coming top right now. We're using our sweepers. So instead of a ward like right here, what you should have done is kept walking down and warded where the scuttle spawns, and then warded over the wall. That way you can see if anyone's coming over the wall to gank you. Plus then on top of that, you'll have vision on the other side. Alright, good snare and ulti, and then we get a kill. Plus having this vision on this top side will allow you to do the Rift Herald too. I just say bronze. I don't know. I'm just going off the title though. And we're working on our Leanders right now. There's really nothing else for you to buy, in all honesty. You could buy another Ruby Crystal if you really wanted to, because you'll be working towards the Rylai's, but other than that, it's not going to be that great. I wouldn't ever recommend getting a Dark Seal this late into the game, by the way. I know this was like pre-nerf Dark Seal, but I still wouldn't recommend buying it for the most part. It's just kind of like a waste of spots. If you're really wanting to buy something, Ruby Crystal would have been fine because you're going to eventually build a Rylai's anyway. Okay, so enough being inside lanes. For now, you should be focusing on getting vision around the top side for Rift Herald and for mid. So we're walking through here. For the most part, you should just be in lane, help push out the lane. Then afterwards, you can establish your vision afterwards because then they'll be showing, clearing your wave. Also, these minions reveal you right here. So it's actually like a pretty common mistake is just like trying to establish vision without pushing the waves first. Always want to make sure that you push this wave in first before like coming over into this location and getting a vision down. Because now what's happened here is that people could have collapsed on you through this location. So it's just like not a good habit. You're lucky that you're like everyone else was pushing while you were doing that. But don't make a habit of that. You should always want to push out the lane before you end up going for any kind of vision on the sides. Also, another thing, once the turret falls, you should get a ward down mid. That way you can see whether or not people are reinforcing mid to push out the waves. Plus, this will be really helpful because if you pink the line brush right here and stand there, then you'll be able to see over the wall and catch people. Another thing to note, like in this game, just in general, is that for the most part, you haven't used your pink. You don't use your pinks pretty much at all in this game. So that's definitely something that you'll want to work on in the future is just trying to make better habits of dropping down pinks in locations. That way you can have control of the map. So like a really easy pink would have just been in this line brush the entire time while you're pushing down mid. Also, like kind of a side note and a little bit nitpicky is your camera control is really like all over the place. I recommend trying to get better habits of hitting like the spacebar to recenter your camera a lot. That way you don't constantly have like your whole screen shifting like 3 or 4 screens away. Because I'm seeing this happen like pretty often in team fights when you're cutting backwards where you're basically like having a battle with your own camera angle. So that will help you a lot in that regard. How many champions do you recommend for plat elo? 1 to 2. I mean, for every elo, it's always better to have minimalistic amounts of champions. That way you can just focus on getting really, really comfortable and good with the champion. So same thing, right? Like, getting over here and establishing vision isn't nearly as important as pushing out the wave and forcing people to show and then getting the vision down afterwards. Unless you're literally so far ahead that you can stand in a brush and one-shot someone by yourself, then, I mean, I'm willing to make the exception to it, but otherwise I wouldn't recommend it. So, see, like, because your AD carry can't get this push in and he ends up fighting somebody else and dying. So now you're just in a scenario where you're missing a player for the dragon. And also, pink should be here. Ward should be over the wall, and ward should be down mid. That way you can just kind of see what's going on in mid lane, and you can see how many people are reinforcing or grouping. What are your thoughts on the Rakan PvE changes? They hate Rakan, but they hate Tahm Kench too. They've been really hammering like a lot of the strong competitive supports to basically not be existent in the next patch. I don't know what's wrong with them. Like a lot of the problems I see systemic in the mid game is just from the concept of make sure you push before you get vision down and make sure that like your wards make sense for the circumstances of the game. Those are definitely like pretty key important parts that I would recommend working on. Like going to my YouTube and just looking at the wording guide will help you fix a lot of the issues, because if you just use those roadmaps, you'll have really good established vision control in that regard. Yeah, no problem. Happy to hear it, man. And I think for the most part, trying to make sure that you use your pinks on like line brushes. So like the two brushes around mid based on whatever objective is up is like a pretty easy. Like, that's a pretty easy and, like, surefire way to get value out of, like, your pink words. What the hell is the taunt thing? I'll explain it later. There's no point in explaining it right now, because I'll have to explain it, like, 50 times, and I can't use it right now because I'm not playing. So, yeah, I'll have to go into that. It's a new sponsor thing, but, yeah, I'll explain it later. So now we've got the Leandries, and you'll end up getting a Ruby Crystal off this back anyway. Actually, you'll probably buy an Amp Tome, but I would have recommended a Ruby Crystal because dying is pretty prevalent with how strong the Akali is. So, are you going to play some Rakan next patch? I don't know. Right now, I'm just trying to climb the account to Challenger, maybe get like 300 or 400 LP, and then after that, if I decide to, I can like experiment a bit more on other accounts. Alright, so we got a good kill right there. Actually got a good snare. I would have recommended actually just dumping your ult on that guy, just to get him chunked. So we're following this. Alright, you have flash. You should snare right here. Great snare. Alright, you kill another person. You should be spam pinging Baron right now. 100%. You've killed like 2 or 3 people. You have your homie who can tank. Right now, you should be spam pinging this Baron so that you can do this together. And not spam pinging it is actually a pretty big mistake. Also, another thing to note, when you're on purple side, you don't want to pink in the pit. You want to pink on outside of the pit, because a lot of times people will walk over through the blue buff and ward over the wall, and you want your pink ward to be in range so that you can clear those wards. What's my favorite support champion at the moment? I've really been having a lot of fun with Thresh, Lux, and Sona. Those have been like my most enjoyable. And then I'd recommend walking up here and just warding this location right here. That way, even if your teammates aren't pushing, you can still see if someone's walking over, and you can bait the brush that you're standing around in. And yeah, try to make better habits about if there's inaction in the game, just spawn range plants so that they harass people so that you can be genning gold. It's very important like habit to develop. Also, this ward is useless because you're not contesting like a dragon or anything like that right now. You're controlling Baron vision, so make sure that like your vision reflects what objective is up on the map. Now we're scooting back. You don't have any skills right now, so you just want to kite away. The Lucian's actually pushing down mid or bottom, which is pretty good. We dump our ult. See, like that, like the camera movement, like kind of bothers me. So just trying to make sure that like you recenter your camera more frequently is very, very important. At this point in time, you're doing nothing on the map. What you should do is just channel back, get more awards. I'd sell the refillable potion, pick up a blasting wand, and then you should just be trying to get vision around dragon until you get the dragon, and then after that, you should just be moving towards Baron. Like right now, you should sell your refillable and then buy a blasting wand. Like you shouldn't be leaving the base with 850 gold. Is Sivir good for learning AEC? Yeah, she's pretty reliable and stable right now. Sivir and Kai'Sa seem to be like the most frequented champions for AD carry role. They're both good. Are you gonna make this a YouTube video? Yeah, I mean I upload all the lessons to YouTube. Unless like someone specifically says that they don't want it on YouTube. Good. Constantly zoning them away, which is very, very important for the dragon. So, like, when you're in the top side, too, you should be establishing, like, way more outward vision. That way you can actually see what's going on. Because these wards, for the most part, don't give you pretty much any vision at all. Seems to be, like, a lot of inaction. I'm going to mostly try to get to team fights at this point in time. Alright, so we're just pushing down mid right now. Oh, he's actually going in. So we have flash and snare. Let's see how this fight goes. So we get really good ultimate that zones people. You hit the snare on the carry. Hopefully you spawn more ranged plants. Perfect. Really good fight. That was a really good ultimate where you ended up hitting a snare and doing everything. You should be hitting the turret the whole time though. You're standing really far back, giving pressure to someone who shouldn't have any pressure on you at all. You should just literally be standing here and hitting the turret the entire time. So you're playing like way too safe. Like this turret should be dead twice over for sure. And you should be playing way further up with your Orianna the entire time. Like, she's super strong. It's just an Ivern. Ivern's not going to kill either of you. You don't need to be playing that far back. Now, one thing you need to note is that people are respawning, so it's definitely time for you to start cutting backwards. Paying attention to your passive spawn is very, very important, and just spawning plants while you're kiting backwards. That's definitely something that you don't really do at all. Like, you use your own plants that you spawn really well, but you're not using any of the plants that are spawning, like, for you, and just, like, using it to harass players. So, really good snare once again. Your snares are definitely high impact in this game, for sure. Like, see right there, like, I'd spawn a ranged plant right there with the passives that are spawning. So just making sure that you make good habits and stuff like that is very, very important. It'll let you squeeze out like a lot of extra damage on your champion, just having those kinds of things harass. Plus on top of that, like I said before, you want to be cycling your spell thieves on cooldown as much as possible so that you're genning income. Alright, so we've hit the Rylai spike. You should buy another blasting wand, sell your refillable, and then buy 2 pings. That's definitely what you should be doing next. So we're buying the blasting wand, right? No, definitely shouldn't do that. Should be buying another blasting wand and then selling your refillable for 2 pinks. For the most part, you're holding on to your refillable for way too long and not prioritizing pinks enough, especially when neutral objectives like Baron are around. So that's like definitely an immediate big problem for right now. And you should always have a ward over this wall. That way you can see if anyone is walking in. Like, you ended up killing somebody, which is good, but just, like, establishing a better vision line is very important. Alright, so we get the Baron. We're just kind of running down mid right now. I mean, at this point in time, I think you pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered this game. But you should have had Baron about 10 minutes earlier. The fight you won around top side where you killed 2 or 3 people off of your snare was pretty important. Alright, well, I mean, overall, like, your snares are really good, but things I want to talk about in this game, for laning phase, spawning your Q to range harass people and using it as an extension. You don't always need to lead the lead the trades with hitting your spells. You can just use the plants to harass people. And that's also important for, like, mid game and, you know, harassing people just to generate income, so you're not, like, poor and shit like that. Another thing to note too is that once someone's established a ward in a brush and you can't clear it, don't keep standing in the brush where they can hit you with skill shots. Got harassed a lot for no reason in that regard. Use your potions earlier. Then, like, pay attention to back timings. If you back before your ADC and you finish your sidestone, make sure you go out and establish vision. That way you can see where people are moving to, because you just have, like, a lot of, like, lazy habits when it comes to establishing vision. Next, make sure your wards reflect important locations for the game. I released 2 warding guides. I recommend checking those out once again to kind of know the warding spots. Well, you got a lot of wards in these games that, like, were just meaningless for the most part. In the mid game, make sure you're making better habits of putting down pink wards. Line brushes are just a great spot in general to have wards on, so you can't go wrong with basically pink warding and line brushes. That'll help you a lot. And you team fought pretty reasonably well. You did a good job hitting snares and your ulting. So those are all positive things that you were doing. So you just need to work on cleaning up, like, just establishing vision and, like, laning phase stuff and genning income. Like, you're not greedy enough with this champion right now where you're not, like, constantly spawning ranged plants. You're not utilizing the seed passive that's spawning quite frequently. So those are all things that you should definitely work on in the future. But this wasn't a bad game. Although, this was against, like, a pretty dumb lane, too. So, that is something to kind of asterisk onto this game. Anyway, that's it for this lesson.